Welcome to Sikbaggers YouTube channel. I'm Steve, and today we're going to be showing you how to put the DNA Mammoth fat spoke wheels on a 2015 Softail. Now, you can take this information that we provide today and apply it to all kinds of Softails. It's pretty much the same installation process on all the Softail models. Your brakes and stuff like that may be a little bit different than what we're doing today, but overall you can use this information on just about any Softail. Just a couple of things that I'm going to quickly go over before we actually get into the install. We did a lot of research before we decided on a set of wheels. I kept coming back to the DNA Mammoth fat spokes. I've seen a lot of pictures with these wheels and tires on these Softails, and the style of bike that we're building, the Cholo style bike, these wheels go great with that style. So the one thing that you need to do before you actually order your wheels, go out to your bike, look at it, look everything that you need to order. So we got the wheels, tires, and rotors and all that stuff from DNA. We got it all ordered. It took a couple of weeks to come in, and then I get them in and I realized I forgot to get chrome spacers for the front wheels. So I had to wait another 2 weeks to get those. We ended up getting a chrome pulley cover that we'll be putting on today and new chrome bolts back there, but I just completely forgot the front wheel spacers. We have ABS on this, so there's like a cover, and there was only one place I could actually find those where it had the chrome cover for the ABS sensor and its little spacer, and then the spacer for the other side, and that was Harley Davidson. Once I decided on the DNA wheels, I got up with Eddie Bird. He is my go-to guy for ordering parts, and he was a DNA dealer, so we just ordered everything through him. I'll put a link to his website, LEDs and Bags, and also his Facebook down below, so you can contact him if you want to go through him to get your DNA wheels. I've been ordering parts through Eddie for a long time, and he's always been great to me, so I just wanted to put that information out there for you guys so you can look him up as well. So this is going to be kind of a long video because we are doing the front and the rear wheels in this video, but I will break this video down into chapters, so if you're on a computer, you'll be able to see different chapters along the scroll line on there, and you can kind of skip to the parts that you need to see, and or you can just watch the entire video in case you're preparing yourself to actually do this job on your bike. But without further ado, let's get the camera over here and let's get started. So obviously the first thing we want to do is get the bike jacked up. We're going to put some straps on it too, because we're going to end up jacking this up quite a bit to roll this wheel out. If you have a Softail with this front light up here, you can reach in here and feel this wire. It comes back out, it comes out right here, goes up through the neck, underneath the gas tank. And up in here, you can pull this rubber out and you'll see a couple of zip ties. You're gonna pull on this wire, pop one of the zip ties, and this thing unplugs right here. But that plug is more than likely fished up under the tank there. So you're gonna have to fish that out, but that wire goes here and then down to the light. Now we are reinstalling this fender with the risers to accommodate the 21-inch wheel, but we still have to deal with the wiring on the light. Just make sure you don't try to jerk this thing out of there with that wire in there. So the first thing we're going to do is get that light disconnected that we talked about earlier. Like I said, there's a couple of zip ties in here that you probably are going to have to get a flashlight, something to get up there and there to see. Use a little pick to help me get that out. Just remember the routing of that wire when you go to put it back in. On this wire, it's also going to be zip tied to your brake line. So go ahead, cut those zip ties off and get that stuff out of the way. So we're going to go ahead and bust these bolts loose on the fender. I like to go ahead and remove the rear ones, but I like to get it loose so I can do this by hand so I can control the fender. So if we remove the back two, and I can remove this bolt, but it's going to drop down. So I'm just going to kind of help steady it until I get the other bolt out. So right now we're just going to let our fender slide back and rest. It's going to kind of keep everything out of the way. We're going to install our riser. This is what the fender riser looks like to accommodate a 21-inch wheel, but use your stock fender. If you look at this edge right here, it's curved. That's going to tell you that curve is going to go to the fork side. So they're both identical, just one goes this way and one goes the other way. This part here lays right here on the fork. So you slide this in, up, and set it back down. This is threaded now, so you don't need the nut that was on the inside. We're gonna slide this in, up, and set it on top. And go ahead and start that bolt. We're gonna torque these at 15 to 21 foot-pounds. Now we have our stock fender pushed back, our new fender risers put on, so when we get the new wheel on, we can install our fender. From here, we're going to go ahead and start to pull the axle out and get this wheel off. The most important thing that you need to pay attention to is if you have ABS, you have an ABS sensor right here. You need to be very careful with this. So the first thing we're going to do is remove the brake caliper. It's very important that you notice the end of this bolt. It is a 12-point bolt. So you need to have a socket like that where it has all those ridges in there. If you stick a regular socket on there, you're going to end up stripping this out. You're going to bust these loose. Before we pull that off, we're going to cut the zip tie that holds the ABS wire onto the brake line. Now we can move this off the bike. Now you want to suspend this kind of out of the way. We're going to take one of these high-speed Harley-Davidson brake caliper bags, also known as a Crown Royal bag. We're just going to put that in there, stick it up around something to kind of suspend that away and keep that from banging into the fender. Now from here we're going to have a 15/16 on our axle nut. Get that to break loose. Find the axle spinning on you on the other side. The axle has a hole all the way through it. You can take a large screwdriver, slide that through there, and that'll keep that from spinning on you while you break that loose. I'm gonna get this nut and washer off. Now from here we're ready to remove the axle. You can use a rubber mallet or a dead blow hammer. Now right down here at the bottom of your axle you're going to have 2 bolts. You're going to go ahead and bust these loose. I'm going to go ahead and pull this off. We're going to go ahead and start popping our axle out. I'm going to help support the wheel a little bit as we pull this out. Let it drop down onto the table. Roll it back, pull our ABS sensor off the other side. Be very, very careful with that sensor. We're going to let it hang for right now. Go ahead and pull our axle out. Like that. Now with our new spacers, we're going to be removing this hubcap. Now from here we can just simply roll the front tire and wheel out. So because we bought new rotors from DNA, we're going to go ahead and prepare this wheel for install. The front wheel is fairly easy. You're going to install your new rotor with 5 new bolts. It's very, very important that you never reuse rotor bolts. They're a one-time use bolt only. So if you take them out of your bike, throw them in the trash. Get some new ones to put in here. We actually got some chrome ones to go in here anyways. Now on this particular wheel, the front rotor is 11.8 inches. If you look on the new rotor, you've got a recessed side here and it's just flat on the other side. Flat side goes down, recessed side goes up. That's for your bolts. When you put your bolts in, it'll be flat across there. We've got 5 new rotor bolts and we're going to start these by hand. The rear rotor bolts and the front rotor bolts are different size. So if you get these from DNA and you've got a bag of them, make sure to check that you have the right size. The big ones obviously will not fit down in these holes. We're just going to run these in by hand to make sure that we don't cross thread them. The service manual does not call for any blue Loctite. We're going to torque these down to 16 to 24 foot-pounds. And we're going to do this in a star pattern. Don't just go around in a circle. 1 ugga-dugga, not 2, not 3. When it clicks, that's it. We're going to roll our 21 in. Now with the spacer kit that we got from Harley Davidson, as you can see right there, this is the cover for your spacer and your ABS sensor, and it is notched out, so we're going to go ahead and put that on. So this is the reason why we buy the spacer kit, to get rid of this hubcap. So if you're just wanting to remove this hubcap and run your stock wheel, you can. Right on the inside you'll see this circlip. You take that off, pull this out, and you're left with a spacer. So but we're going to remove all of that and actually put in the chrome spacer from Harley Davidson. So that's going to slide up in there just like that. We're going to pull our ABS sensor up. We're going to get it in. We're going to get the axle through it. Get the fork lined out. And just a touch more. When you get everything squared up, you can take a rubber mallet, go ahead and knock that the rest of the way in. And on this piece on the bottom that we pulled off right here, if you look on the back side, it says out. You're gonna wanna put that out away from the bike. It goes a specific way. You're gonna hand start these. We're gonna torque these to 132 to 180 inch-pounds. Also, when you're putting this axle in, make sure that this hole here is facing forward. If you have it facing up or slightly at an angle, when you're riding down the road, that can cause a really loud whistle. On this side, we're going to go ahead and put our washer our axle nut back on. Now before we torque this down, you're going to notice right there on top of the ABS sensor, I'll put an arrow there so you can see it, that little nub has to be rotated up and touching the back of the fork. So we're going to torque this one 70 to 75 foot-pounds. Remember the screwdriver on the other side to make sure that your hole stays straight. With a new brake disc, you may have to spread the brake pads and your caliper. You can do that with a big screwdriver. If you got a brake caliper tool, you can use that too. Brake caliper bolts, upper and lower, it's 28 to 38 foot-pounds. We're in the home stretch now. All we have to do is raise our fender back up, and we're going to carefully get that into place and lined up with our spacers. Inside that riser kit, you're going to have 4 little bolts like this and a washer. Now these go from the inside instead of the outside the way it was before, and I highly suggest that you load these up with a little bit of blue Loctite. You have a ratchet wrench like this, makes this a lot easier. Now the only thing left to do is run our front tip light back up and get it plugged in. Remember, this went up through here, so we're going to try and feed this up without taking all of this off and get to this. I'm going to zip tie our ABS line back off here. Plastic clip that goes on here and holds this. You have to make sure that there's enough slack in this so when you turn the handlebars, it's not pulling on this. So we're going to pull this rubber back out and tuck that plug back up in there, just like that. Now we're going to move along to the back wheel. The very first thing we need to do is get our belt guards out of the way so we can get this belt off when we remove the wheel. We've got a 1/2 inch up here that has a nut on the inside. 1/2 inch back here. For the lower belt guard, you've got another one down here. And you have another one up here behind your swing arm. Next thing we're going to do is remove the C-clip here. Get that out of the way. Then we're going to put a crescent wrench on the right side and a 36 on the left side, and we're going to loosen our axle. Maybe. If it starts to turn on you, hold the crescent wrench on the other side and get this loose. I'm not going to take that off just yet, just loosen it for now. Now on both sides of the bike, you have an axle adjustment screw right here. It pushes the axle back to tighten your belt and also center the axle. So we're going to loosen these and try to get equal amount of turns on that. Now on this side, we're going to remove our rear caliper. Got a couple of zip ties for our ABS sensor. We're going to cut that off. Take this clip off. These just pop right off. Then you got to bend this little tab down here to get the brake line to come up and out. Just kind of bend that up slightly. Remove this bolt. We're going to slide this off. Being very careful that we don't pinch, smack our wheel. We're going to pull this off. Now just take a zip tie and run it through here. Zip tie it off to the foot peg or something just to keep it out of the way. Now we can back this bolt out so we can move this axle forward to get the belt off. Jack the bike up. You got to get a piece of wood, something to put underneath the tire. We're going to let this jack back down on it to take the pressure off of the axle. And once I can slide my wood under there, I'm going to go ahead and let it back down on the wood until you see that axle kind of move. Then you know you're pretty loose in there. Now you can see I can move this axle now. Now it's very important to look at your spacers. A lot of these spacers don't have this double line on there. If you have this double line always goes to the outside of the wheel. If it doesn't have that, just take your marker, mark this left side, and then mark the side that goes to the outer edge nearest the frame. Now on this side, on the 15 Heritage, we've got the one large spacer, but it does have the little rings around the edges, so it lets me know which side that goes back on. So if it falls out and rolls around, it's not a big deal. We're gonna take a rubber mallet or a dead blow hammer. We're gonna knock that axle through. On this side, we're gonna come and pull the axle. We're just pulling our axle out over here. let our ABS sensor fall down. Now that the axle's out, we can move this around. Let me get this dry belt off here. That. Now you can see I dropped my ABS sensor down just to keep it out of the way. We have another spacer in here, just a little one. We're gonna lay that down. We got the remaining part of our brake. We can just slide this forward and pull that out. We're gonna set that straight down. And once again, mind where this ABS sensor goes. Well, I'm gonna pull it to the outside, but we know it goes back to the inside there. We're gonna jack the bike up enough to get this out from underneath the fender. We're gonna remove our block of wood here. And then if you still don't have enough room, you can just kind of tilt. Just kind of tilt it out. Now that we got our wheel off, we want to get our rear pulley off. We are going to reuse this rear pulley. We have a chrome cover that goes on this. Basically, you just want to bust all 5 of these loose. Once we set it up here, we can look for our rotation arrows. Our rotation arrow is here, showing the rotation of the tire this way. So this will be the rotor side and this will be the pulley side. We're gonna lay our pulley back on here. Now we purchased a new chrome pulley cover from Harley-Davidson and new chrome pulley bolts. Also from Harley-Davidson. You can get this replaced in a full chrome pulley, but it's significantly more. And with the bike that we're building, we decided to just go ahead and do the pulley cover. Just have to look at your pulley because there's a couple of different ones on the market. Some have 8 holes, some have 10 holes. So just go out and see which one you have and then get the cover for it. It's very simple. This just lays right over the pulley. So we've got our new washers, our new bolts. We're gonna dab a couple of drops of red Loctite on there. Once we get them all started, we can run them down till they touch. We're gonna set our torque wrench to 50 foot-pounds and we're gonna go into star pattern. And then we're gonna retighten them again at 67 to 70 foot-pounds. Same star pattern. Now we flip the wheel over, place our new chrome rotor from DNA on there as well. I add a little blue Loctite to these bolts. Remember, these are one-time use bolts, so do not pull these out of your old wheel and put them in your new one. Service manual says 30 to 45 foot-pounds, star pattern again. We're gonna walk our wheel over, So we've got our block of wood underneath our tire to kind of lift up so we can have some jacking room here. We've lowered the bike back down to it's pretty close to where the axle goes in. We're going to take our ABS sensor. We're going to run it through because remember that wire went on the inside of that. We're going to take our brake caliper bracket, run it up in here. There's a groove here, goes on this piece of metal right here. So we're going to slide that into place. On the back side of the frame right here, it's grooved. You can put your finger back there and feel it. This goes in that groove and then lines up with the brake caliper bracket, like that. Then we can rotate our tire back up into place. Now all we have to do when we get ready to put the axle in is put the ABS sensor back in here. Let's move to the other side. Now on this side, we're gonna put our rear spacer in with our 2 lines facing out, or whichever one. We're gonna roll this forward. Once again, it's gonna set in that groove. Slide it forward until we can get our belt on. Now we're lined up. We're gonna put a light coat of anti-seize. It's good axle grease. Just a nice coat on there. Get this ready to put back in. So we're gonna go through the frame, the spacer, the brake bracket. We're gonna take our ABS sensor and slide it back up in here. This side over here. And to pull back on the wheel just a little bit on that other side. Now it's very important on your ABS sensor, you're gonna take the wire and you're gonna pull it up towards the bike. There's a little nub on the exterior of the ABS sensor by the wire. You're gonna pull it up until it makes contact before you tighten anything down. Now because I do have chrome covers and stuff that's going to cover all this up. I didn't bother with getting chrome bolts and caps and all that because we have all that coming in a future video. Now that the axle's all the way in and we have our nut on, we want to go ahead and jack the bike up and get the pressure off of the wheel. Pull our block out. Now we're going to start tightening this back down to pull our belt and our wheel and get our alignment. We just did a video just about a month ago that shows you exactly how to do this. Check belt tension, make sure that your wheel is true. So we're going to follow those steps that we did in the first video. And once we start pulling on the wheel, we're going to go ahead and rotate our wheel and tire. If this belt and stuff is rubbing on here, it will line out on its own. We're going to rotate this until the belt falls out where it needs to be. Now we're going to start tightening this back down to pull our belt and our wheel and get our alignment. We just did a video just about a month ago that shows you exactly how to do this. Check belt tension, make sure that your wheel is true. So we're going to follow those steps that we did in the first video. So now we've got our belt kind of about where we need it. We're going to check the belt tension here in just a little bit, but we want to make sure that we get this wheel square because this side pushes back on that side pushes back on that side to make your axle wanky. So there's a couple of different ways that you can do it. You can do it with a tape measure. You're going to go to this pivot bolt right here, put it right in the center, and you're going to come back and we're going to measure 16 and 7/8. Going to do the same thing on the other side until we get 16 and 7/8 on that side, but our belt's not too tight. It's kind of a back and forth thing. So if I make a major adjustment on this, it makes our belt too tight, then we have to loosen the whole thing. It's kind of a back and forth deal. There's an old school way of doing it with ink pens. You've got an ink pen and a string. I've got one side tied off. I'm going to take the other side and just loop it around just a little bit. I'm going to put that dead center in that bolt. I'm going to come back here. I'm going to wind this up on this pin tight until I get it dead center in the middle of that axle. And I'm just going to take that and I'm going to walk it to the other side of the bike and see where I'm at. Now the technique with the pin and the strings, it's hard for me to do because of my exhaust. My exhaust on the other side covers this bolt, so I can't really get the string down in there. It'd be easier for me to use a tape measure, or we have a squaring tool. You can pick this up on Amazon. Just has a little brass bullet on here that you can loosen and move up and down the rod. Basically, we're going to center this up on the center of that. We're going to pull it back here. We're going to put it in the center of this rear axle. We're going to tighten it down. Same thing, we're going to walk it to the other side. We're going to set it on there and see where we're at. We're going to walk it over here, flip it around. I'm going to poke it in. I'm going to center it up on that swing arm bolt. And you can get fancy and measure the swing arm bolt and crisscrosses until you get the perfect center. But we're going to put it right on the center and we'll set it in there and we're just a tad bit off. Now we're going to check the belt tightness. Now our service manual tells us to put the bike upright and the back tire off of the ground. That's how we're going to check that. We're going to look for 5/16 to 3/8 deflection. You check that with a belt tension tool like this. You can pick these up. They're like 10 bucks on Amazon. Once again, I'll put the link down in the description of this if you want to do this at home. So basically, there's a rubber band down here and a rubber band at the top. This one down here, you'll see 10 pounds marked on this. So when we push this up, it's spring loaded. This will go to 10 pounds and it'll stop. That's 10 pounds. Up here, we're going to set this rubber band at whatever visual we use. We're going to use this bracket right here on the back of the swing arm to push up. So we count the marks on this as we push up. When we hit 10 pounds, we count the mark. I'm going to push that rubber band back to the top. I'm going to turn this bottom part to where I can see the 10. I'm going to put it in the middle of the belt. I'm going to turn this so where I can see all my marks. My 1/8 marks are here. My 10-pound mark is here. You kind of have to watch both. So I'm going to start pushing up on this belt and counting the lines that goes past the edge of this bracket. We're looking for 3 lines, 3/8. So we're going to push up. 2, 3. We've got 3/8 right there. We can double check it again. 1, 2, 3. We're at 10 pounds. So that's 3/8 deflection. So because we actually pulled the wheel off and put it back on, and we're not just making fine-tune adjustments, we're actually having to line up the axle and the belt. I'm just kind of super anal, so I will actually go back and forth on both sides and checking the belt tension until I get it just right. 3/8 deflection on this, and the axle has to be center. Also, we need to put our C-clip on our rear axle. So from here, we ran the 2 caliper bolts in. We torqued them to 75 to 102 inch-pounds. And once you get those 2 bolts torqued down, you're going to come up here, put your cable back in the little clamp that we had to bend up to get the cable out of. We're going to put a couple of zip ties on here. Make sure that your cables and your hoses are tidy. Your ABS sensor wire moves freely and that's not pinched. And from there, you're pretty well done. Now, what I like to do is just go ahead and double check my work. It takes less than 5 minutes to just walk back up to the front, spin my wheels, check my spacers, check my brakes, make sure everything's working correctly. All of my little wires and stuff are out of the way. They're zip tied off. Really, it just takes like 5 minutes. It can save you a big headache down the line. Got our top one on. We're gonna slide our bottom one in. This one, the bottom one goes in between. The top one goes on the very back. Then this one, then your black on the outside here. So we're gonna sneak that up in just in case you forgot how you took it off, because I've done that before. Put the bolt in through the back. Put our nut on the front. This one is kind of hidden up here. Kind of hard to get to. Then we have our one down here at the bottom. So there you have it. Pretty easy install. Like I said in the beginning of the video, just a few simple tools and a little bit of know-how, and you can do this at home. So even if you aren't swapping out your wheels and tires, you can use all this information that I gave you today on how to remove them and put them back on. Maybe you want to save some money just by taking the back wheel off yourself and taking it and having a tire put on. So I just want to say right up front, I have no affiliation with DNA. They didn't sponsor us. They didn't send us the wheels and tires for free and all that. I'm going to give you my honest opinion. Everything looked great on the wheels and tires. Of course, I inspected every single spoke before we actually put the wheels and tires on the bike. If you want to get your hands on a set of these, like I said in the beginning of the video, get up with Eddie Bird. I will put a link to LEDs and bags down below. You can contact Eddie. He will ask you all the questions to get all the information from you on your bike and whether or not you have ABS, all that good stuff. You want colored, spoked wheels or chrome or twisted or crystal or any of that stuff, he'll take care of you. So make sure you get up with Eddie over at LEDs and Bags. If you have any questions on this install, you know the deal. Comment section down below. I'll try to help you the best that I can. Make sure to check out the rest of the channel. We got a ton of bagger stuff on there. Got a lot of Softail stuff coming up. I'm gonna get out of here and get myself cleaned up. I hope to see you in the next video, but until then, as always, be safe, keep your knees in the breeze. Thanks for checking out the video. Don't forget to hit that like and that subscribe popping up over here. And don't forget to check out the rest of the channel because we have a ton of bagger related and Softail videos on our channel. And to get you started, maybe you can check out this one or this one. Not really going to say anything else. You can just click one of those and take you over to another video.